During the French Revolution, a sentence spread across France: "If there is no bread, let them eat cake." People believed this insult came from Queen Marie Antoinette. Historians still debate whether she ever said it, but truth no longer mattered. The hungry population accepted it as reality, and hunger slowly turned into hatred. The Queen became the face of royal cruelty, and in public imagination she began to symbolize everything wrong with the monarchy. In 1775, the new rulers of France, Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, ascended the throne. The public hoped that young leadership would bring relief. Yet the king himself sensed the crisis. When he first wore the crown, he remarked that it felt heavy. He was gentle and well-meaning, but governing a collapsing state required strength and political skill, qualities he lacked. France at that time was structured into 3 estates. The clergy formed the first estate, the nobility the second, and the ordinary people the third. Although the common people made up about 97% of the population, they had almost no political power and carried nearly the entire tax burden. Peasants paid land taxes, labor duties, and even a salt tax from childhood. Many deliberately wore torn clothes to appear poorer so tax collectors would spare them. Meanwhile, nobles and clergy enjoyed privileges and exemptions. The system bred deep resentment. The king tried to fix the economy. He appointed reformist minister Anne Robert Jacques Turgot, who attempted to reduce taxes on the poor and force the rich to contribute. The privileged classes resisted fiercely, and the queen disliked limits on royal spending. Under pressure, the king dismissed Turgot and cancelled reforms. For the people, this was proof that the monarchy would never change voluntarily. They began calling the queen Madame Deficit, blaming her for financial ruin. Marie Antoinette was not necessarily malicious, but she was disconnected from ordinary life. She loved fashion, entertainment, and privacy away from the court. Rumors spread rapidly about waste, foreign loyalties, and immoral behavior. Pamphlets exaggerated stories and circulated across cities and villages. In revolutionary times, perception becomes stronger than truth. The queen failed to understand how deeply she was hated until it was too late. Meanwhile, an international event changed France's fate. Britain's American colonies declared independence in 1776. The French king saw an opportunity to avenge his country's earlier defeat by Britain. France supported the American rebels. In 1781, British General Cornwallis surrendered to George Washington at Yorktown. France achieved revenge and prestige, but victory carried a devastating cost. The war drained the treasury so severely that the state neared bankruptcy. Ordinary citizens gained nothing, yet they paid through heavier taxes and rising prices. At the same time, powerful new ideas were spreading across the country. Philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau argued that sovereignty belongs to the people and government requires their consent. According to him, citizens were not subjects of a king but owners of the state. These thoughts transformed public thinking. People who once accepted suffering as destiny began to imagine political rights and equality. Even years after Rousseau's death, crowds helped his poor widow in gratitude because they believed his ideas had given them freedom of thought. Among the educated youth influenced by these writings was a young lawyer, Maximilien Robespierre. Like many others, he first respected the monarchy but gradually concluded that true reform was impossible under absolute rule. Across France, similar thinking spread quietly in towns, clubs, and assemblies. By the late 1780s, 4 forces combined into a dangerous storm: a weak king unable to make firm decisions, a queen widely disliked by the public, an empty treasury ruined by war, and revolutionary philosophy convincing people they deserve power. Above all stood hunger. Bread prices soared while wages remained low. The contrast between starving citizens and luxurious court life became unbearable. The financial crisis became so severe that the government could not even pay its routine expenses. Loans were taken repeatedly, but lenders began refusing further credit. The state then attempted to impose new taxes, and for the first time provincial assemblies openly resisted the king's authority. People started discussing a written constitution that would limit royal power and give representation to the majority population. Political clubs formed, pamphlets multiplied, and public opinion began shaping national politics. Markets in Paris often witnessed riots when bread failed to arrive. Women waited in long lines outside bakeries, sometimes from midnight until morning, only to return home empty-handed. Bakers were accused of hoarding grain, officials were accused of corruption, and the court was accused of indifference. The idea spread that the monarchy either could not solve the crisis or did not care to solve it. Trust between ruler and ruled broke down completely. Soldiers themselves were affected because they too came from common families. Many sympathized with civilians instead of suppressing them. The authority of the crown weakened day by day while the confidence of the population increased. People realized that power survives only as long as people obey it. Once fear disappears, even the strongest throne begins to shake. France had reached a historic turning point. A government that failed to reform peacefully now faced the possibility of being transformed violently. Citizens no longer demanded mercy, they demanded rights. What began as complaints about bread had turned into a movement about dignity, equality, and political participation. The monarchy still stood, but its foundations were already collapsing, and the coming events would soon change not only France but the political future of the entire world.